So now that I cleaned the upholstery for the seat back, I looked at the seat base, whatever, and you know, I was pretty happy with how this turned out before, but now you know, I didn't use that drill brush on here, and so now I'm kind of thinking, I'm thinking I could get this cleaner. I also was looking at this hole here, and I think I should do something about this. So we got some serious abrasion right there, but it's not, hasn't opened up. This, I'm thinking about maybe sewing a patch onto the back just to keep that hole from getting bigger. You know, I would go to a fabric store probably and get some gray fabric if I could, but with coronavirus now, it's not really a possibility. So I'm gonna see what I have here and just see if there's something that I could attach onto the back. So I have this Cordura nylon fabric here that I used for patching the foam, and I think if I do this right, I can kind of close this hole up and it won't, the backing fabric won't be super visible. So let me see if I can do that, get the sewing machine out and just patch this really quick. I do have a bunch of thread, which is nice. So I got some gray here that matches the upholstery pretty well. So I'm gonna get the sewing machine set up and then do a, let's do a quick patch. This might be a good time to thank my mother who taught me how to sew when I was pretty young. It's come in quite useful throughout my life. Okay, so I'm just getting the thread set up here, gray thread, and I don't know, maybe I could do a video on how to sew. I'm sure there's probably millions of those. And I'm certainly not an expert, but I have a solid understanding of the basics, I would say. Okay, so I'm going to, I cut out this little patch. I'm going to attach it to the back of this hole with a couple of pins to hold it in place. And then I will just sort of sew around. To reinforce things. You know, this isn't like, it's not going to be perfect, and it just needs to be strong enough to support this. You know, this isn't an industrial sewing machine, which probably what you would normally use for working on this thick material. So I will have to see if the sewing machine can handle it or not. If not, then I'll probably just have to sew it by hand, which I'm hoping I don't have to do. Okay, ow. So now got that pinned in place, and I can just kind of, yeah, just sort of sew around here. And one thing I noticed is the presser foot, which is this thing right here, there's not enough space right there to get this, to get the seat cover underneath here. So because of all these seams, so you can, this comes off, just kind of go like that. And then this works. Gonna get this positioned past all those really thick sections, and then put the presser foot back in place and attach it. So now I'm kind of like, yeah, I'm in where I need to be. So I'm just gonna kind of try to hold this gap together, and then I'm gonna use a zigzag pattern. Am I gonna use a zigzag? No, I'm gonna go use a straight stitch and just go along either side of this first, and then I'll probably take those pins out of there. So let's see how this looks. Okay, pretty good. Yeah, so the sewing machine doesn't seem to be having any problems. It's good. Okay, and then that was sort of like one side. Do the other side here. I'm just kind of trying to hold this closed, so this hole closed, so that it's can't see the black patch that much through it. Yeah, so that's like in there. So I'm going to take these pins out because I don't want to sew over them. Because that's how you break your needle. Also don't want to stab my finger. Can't really. Okay, there we go. Yeah, so I'm not sure, like, I don't know what the best way to do this is, but just gonna kind of go, maybe I will do a little zigzag down the middle. Yeah, so this isn't ideal. This isn't ideal, but yeah, because I'm holding the camera with my hand and trying to sew the other hand, but just so you can kind of see what I'm doing. So it's a zigzag pattern, which means that the needle is kind of going back and forth from side to side. Getting hung up a little bit here. It's okay. That actually looks pretty good. I think I want to lengthen the stitches a little bit. So this outer ring right here is the width of the zigzag. So if I go all the way over, and this is, I don't know what's going on here. This is something weird with this knob, but it's I don't think both of these are supposed to be moving together, but anyway, the outer knob is the width of the zigzag. So on 0, it's just a straight stitch, and then if you go over, this is really weird, then it's going to go back and forth like really wide. And then this one right here is the length of the stitch. So that's like how far it goes each time. So if it's up here, it's the stitches are going to be really close together, and then if you move it down, it'll be farther apart. Okay, so I got to use both hands here, but yeah, this is definitely, it looks quite decent actually. So I'm just gonna go back and forth a little bit because I don't want this to pull apart. And to go forward, so I'm pushing on this foot pedal. That's how you control like whether it's sewing or not and how fast it goes. So kind of like a TIG welder, same idea. The more you push it down, the faster it goes. And then this knob right here that controls the length of the stitches. If you push it up, then it goes backwards. So, you know, normally you'd be sewing and then you get to the end, you want to go backwards a little bit, you just kind of go like that. And, you know, this is a Bernina record electronic sewing machine. I don't know, you know, I've never used another sewing machine. This is the same kind of sewing machine that my mom had when I was a kid, and this is what I learned on. And then later when I was an adult and wanted to have my own sewing machine, I bought the same machine. So I'm assuming that other sewing machines are similar, but you might have more features or maybe less features, depending. Okay, so that's probably good enough. Let's take a look at it. And I'm gonna have to take this foot off. Then when you're done, you know, after you've been sewing for a little bit, you got the two threads. You know, there's a thread on the bottom that comes out of this part, and there's a thread that comes out of the needle. So you gotta trim those off. Yeah, so this is looking pretty good. I think I can do a little bit more. So this is what it looks like on the top. So that hole is all closed up. Got some threads here that need to be cleaned up. So the top, yeah, the top looks all right. If you look on the back, you can get a better idea of like what I did. Yeah, so you can see these are the different stitches that I was doing. And you can see the zigzag right here. I think that's good enough, but I'm going to do a little bit more just to make sure that, you know, it's kind of, I would equate it to welding in rusty metal. You're not going to be really successful if you are trying to attach two pieces of rusty metal together. What I want to do is make sure that I'm sewing in the good strong part of the fabric, because it's, you know, it got stretched out and worn. It's worn through there, so the fabric is really thin, and so I want to make sure that I'm kind of going out into the good strong part of the fabric, and yeah, the patch is wide enough so I can do that. So I'm going to do a couple of back and forth passes on the side here. So that's one side. Let's do this side. A couple of back and forth. This lever right here lifts the foot up and down, so so you can move the fabric around, but then you have to let it down, because that's what pulls the fabric through the sewing machine as it's sewing. Yeah, I think I should maybe do a little bit across the end here too. Okay, so that's it's like pushing the limit of the sewing machine a little bit here. That's what that sound was. Okay, let's get this off of here. Not sure what happened there, but let's see. Looks like we ran out of thread on the bottom, so let's see, where did that happen? Yeah, I think it's all right. Yeah, just to show you how the sewing machine works. You have this bobbin on the top, this is like the thread that supplies the needle with thread, and then there should be another thread coming out of this little hole right here that isn't there, and so I have this. Oh yeah, so okay, that's what happened. It didn't run out, although it's almost gone. This thread, probably can't see it, but it broke. So that was probably when we heard that like sort of loud sound. So not a big deal. Sometimes, if that happens, you could break the needle, which also isn't a huge deal. I mean, you just, like, I have tons of these things that came with the sewing machine. So here's the repair. Yeah, it's like it's solid now. That's not gonna come apart. Then on the back, we've got this patch here that's sewn on. So should be good for another 280,000 miles, hopefully. Okay, so I'm just gonna wash this now with the drill brush, and then I'm gonna wait for both of these pieces to dry, and then there's one last thing, I think. Hopefully that's it, and then I can put stuff back together. Hoping this is the last thing I need to do before I put everything back together. what I want to do now is cut out a piece of this material here to fit on the bottom of this foam. And I saw this somewhere, the idea to do this. This is, I think this was called jute mat or something like that. I mean, when I've seen jute before, it's been this real kind of like natural sort of almost like grass stuff. This to me, this looks like felt basically, but it's kind of a thick felt material. And what I'm going to do is cut a piece of this out to put on here before I put everything back together. And the reason for doing that is to it helps prevent these wires from digging into the foam. And you can see it's already happened. But it's and it doesn't look too bad on here, but I don't know, it can't be good for it. And you can see kind of like around here, it's, this is like cracking and stuff like that. So I'm just gonna cut out a piece to fit on here. It'll just be another sort of level of reinforcement to improve this whole setup. Don't know if it's really necessary, but since I have everything taken apart, why not put it back together in a way that's going to be stronger than it was originally. Okay, that's done. Now, just gotta wait for the upholstery to dry, and then I'm gonna put all this stuff back together. Upholstery's clean, dry, looks great, and got everything ready to put back together. So let's get to it. So putting the foam on with this felt underneath it to hopefully give it a little more longevity. On top of that goes the upholstery, and there is a little fabric sort of flap here where this wire goes. I fed the wire through the flap and put in the first hog ring. That's a new hog ring right there. When they're new, this is what they look like a little staple almost. Got these pliers, special hog ring pliers. They have slots in the jaws, and it's spring loaded. So the spring, it's not like I think normal like spring loaded pliers would have a spring that keeps them open and then you close them down. This is sort of the opposite. Spring holds it closed, which keeps the hog ring in the pliers ready to be put on. So what I did on the first one was I closed it a little bit so the whole thing would be a little narrower. Basically, we got that red plastic thing, which is the wire-esque thing that's in the foam, and then there's the metal wire that's inside of this fabric flap right here. So I'm just trying to push them close together so they're next to each other, and then squeeze that little hog ring around it. Okay, so let's see if I can do that. Yeah, it's not that bad. It's a little tricky. Okay, that one's not. It's not totally on there. There we go. I'm gonna squeeze it tight. Okay. It's perfect. Now you can see that little ring is around those two pieces, and it'll keep this in. So you know that's basically that's the way that you get the upholstery that kind of tucks down into the foam, and it's not just like this like a floating piece of fabric that's kind of flapping around on top of the foam. The slots in the jaws here, you know, they keep the hog ring in place when you're not holding onto it, but also when you squeeze down on this, it keeps it from slipping out sideways. And you know, I've read about people trying to put these hog rings on with regular pliers and something like this, and I think that would be so frustrating and possibly dangerous for your fingers. So if you're going to be doing this, definitely get these if you can. Yeah, that's on there. Okay, so that's attached. This is this really stiff, sharp Velcro. It's kind of like terry cloth material that sticks onto here, so I'm gonna put that on there, and then I have a feeling this is going to be a little challenging. It's probably going to be entertaining to watch, trying to get this back on, because it's, you know, it's a tight fit, I'm sure. Pretty well. Wow, it's really cool to see this going back together. I think what I have to do now is I've got these 4 plastic clips around the edges, and they need to snap over this metal base. So I don't know if there's any trick to this. Okay, side ones are on. Okay, I'm not sure where this is supposed to be attached. I think it's supposed to go on this wire right here, or rod, because it just seems too easy to get on. And it's not that easy, but it's, yeah, I don't think it's gonna stay on this lip right here because of the shape. It's bent up. So I feel like this needs to come all the way across here. Yeah. Yep, it's better. Okay. That's on. Then just the back. Here. All right. Thought that would be a lot harder than it was. Yeah, this just looks awesome, and it's really, yeah, firm. Now I'm ready to do the seat back. This air bladder thing was here originally, and it's completely destroyed, shredded, and I don't think there's any way to repair this. But what I was wondering is if there's some reason that I should mount this. Like, is it going to provide some kind of support? So I got this, the air bladder mounted here. I wanted to see if it was going to provide any support. You know, I was thinking with these stiff wires or rods here, maybe this would do something, but there's no support here. The support across here is provided by this metal bar, so I'm going to leave this off. I don't see a reason to have this in here. It's just one more thing to be jabbing me in the back later or something like that, so I'm going to take this off. We've got the foam that goes obviously on the frame here. This is pretty straightforward. I haven't tried this yet, so hopefully everything fits all right. These reinforcements. Yeah, this looks awesome. So I think originally this was glued on. I mean, at least that's what it looked like. I can't tell. Anyway, I got to figure that out. And then we've got 4 of these slots for the hog rings, so that's going to take a bit. Yeah, so I didn't want to do more of this adhesive because I don't have the right mask, but and also I don't want to glue everything on and then find out, you know, that there's some kind of problem or something, but I also don't want this flopping around, so I guess I'm gonna glue it on. I think everything's all right, so I'm gonna spray the frame and then the foam and then put it together. And I don't think I need a ton on here. Glued that on around the top, and this feels pretty solid. When I took the seat apart, this bag was on here, and I think this is to make it easier to slide the upholstery on. So I'm going to reuse this. It's kind of disintegrated, but I think it'll be enough to just help a little bit. Oh, it was going so well. Really getting the hang of these hog rings, and I screwed up. I attached the wire that goes supposed to be down here, and I attached it up here. So I got to take that off and move everything down, and then, yeah, keep going. Looks great. The last part is this bottom sort of joint. Looks like this back part has to fold over and go inside this plastic kind of molding thing here. So let's see if we can figure this out. When I took the seat out, this was not together. I can kind of see maybe why that is. There's probably a trick to this. Okay, I'm getting it together. It's just so what you have on the front here is like a hook, and then you've got this flat piece on the back. I had to really push down on the front to take up all the slack here, and then fold this piece over, and that snaps down in. So, and then I use this screwdriver a little bit to kind of pry it in there. But yeah, maybe, I don't know if you can see this, but right here you can kind of see the piece that goes into there's the hook, and then there's this kind of barbed piece that snaps in there. Might have been the trickiest part of this whole project, but it's together. So, all right, back is done. So I think all that's left is to put the back and the base together. Got this plastic washer. Kind of protects the upholstery on this side, and then oh yeah, so there's two long bolts that are for this side. This one Torx, large Torx, interesting bolt that goes on far side. Okay, let's try this sideways. This might be a little easier. Yeah, I can kind of pull the fabric out of the way. Okay. Hopefully. Okay, it's going in. All right, it's all back together. I was thinking about whether I should put this back in the truck, and it would be cool. Like, I really want to see what it feels like, because it was so terrible before, and yeah, I think it's gonna be a big difference now. But I don't want to put this back in until I clean out the rest of the upholstery in the truck. I'm worried about the smell clinging onto here and yeah, reinfecting this seat with the stink. So I am going to leave this out for now, and then my next thing is going to be to detail the rest of the inside. So I think I'll probably end this video now. It's already too long, but yeah, you'll have to come back and watch another video later of me trying this out and seeing what the truck is like to drive with the seat, how it should be. But I'm really happy with how it turned out. I mean, I think it looks amazing. It's clean. It's this hole here is patched. The foam feels sturdy and firm. And yeah, it's just great. It took some time, but not a lot of expense to do this. I mean, of course, I had some tools here, some tools I bought, like the hog ring pliers, and I'm trying to think of what else. With outside the tools, really, I think the only thing that I had to buy for this was the foam, and that wasn't expensive. So yeah, that's it for now.